Hello there. This is the sixth episode of the podcast that I've been doing, bi-weekly, every other week at this point because I do not have the energy to do it every week because I don't watch every fight. But anyway, this time I'll be recapping UFC 271, which was, a pretty good card, even if a lot of things about it were frustrating. And I'll be rambling a bit about UFC 272, Covington versus Masvidal. So anyway, I think we should start out with, the fact that Roxanne Modafferi retired. She's split decision was pretty stupid, honestly, and so was the one for the Arlovsky fight. I thought both O'Neal and Arlovsky pretty clearly won, and the incompetent judging became a pretty big problem as the night went on. So I don't need to go too much into detail. Uh, the best fight of the night was definitely Douglas De Silva de Andrade versus Sergey Morozov on the prelims, early prelims. Silva de Andrade, he got dropped early and sliced open with an elbow, and he proceeds to come back and drop Morozov and choke him out. It was amazing. And Morozov, completely tough, refused to tap, went to sleep completely. But anyway, moving on to the main card. Bobby Green versus Nasrat Haqparast, or Small Kelvin Gastelum, really showed me a couple things. Number one, I'm not too sure what was up with the Nasrat hype. He's an alright striker, but he can't really counterpunch. He doesn't seem to have, any ability going front. He doesn't seem to have, a powerful game that he can impose on people because Bobby Green jabbed him up, made his high guard look stupid, moved back and forth away. Nasrat wasn't able to exploit the fact that Bobby Green kind of has a disconnect between his punching and kicking defense. And also, reminder, Nasrat got pretty clearly out wrestled by Dan Hooker. So, yeah, I'm not too sure why Nasrat had all this hype. So, but anyway, moving on, Renato Moicano versus Alexander Hernandez. Hernandez is a meme, all the stuff he said about Cowboy. I'm going to send you riding off into the sunset. Uh, you look like you've been spending several terms in the fucking Oval Office, stuff like that. Even if Cowboy's kind of a dirtbag himself, nobody really liked Hernandez because he could not back that up. Hernandez is frustrating because he will nuke any meh fighter, any unathletic fighter, Beneil Dariush included. Although I wouldn't consider Benny meh. He's just, not the best athlete. And then you have Renato Moicano, which, obviously everyone liked because he's been around for a while. He used to fight a featherweight a lot. He's got some pretty good wins. And so everyone's like, okay, he should win because of skill, but if he gets nuked by athleticism, I'm going to be pretty upset. And it did not happen, He countered him, rocked him, and choked him out. And it was nice. Jared Cannonier versus Derek Brunson kind of went the way I expected to. Brunson's very sloppy takedown attempts. Uh, some were stuffed, some weren't. He almost choked him out early, but he just got caught within a clinch. Actually, no, not within a clinch. He got caught. Yeah, he got caught with an elbow, rocked, and smashed on the ground. I can't remember if it was from the clinch or not. But Brunson is chinny, and Cannonier hits really hard. I was kind of expecting Brunson to get caught with an uppercut as he dives in for a shot, but that didn't happen. So I was half wrong, half right. See, if you can predict the result of the fight, but kind of wrong on how the result played out and how the dynamic of a fight played out, you were both wrong and right at the same time. Yeah, I would say that's how that happened for me. I was able to predict the result, just not. I wasn't 100% right on the dynamic of the fight because Brunson never really got caught on like a shitty level change, which I definitely expected to because his level changes were very telegraphed. In the co-main, the meme fight between Tai Tuivasa and I was laughing the whole time. This was one of the funniest fights. That was the most sloppy. That was the most dumb, the most amazing, the most awesome, hilarious fight I've ever seen. I like Derek Lewis well enough, and I like Tai Tuivasa well enough. So watching Tuivasa just kill him with an elbow was crazy, and I can't believe he survived that early ground and pound from NCAA Lewis, which that's yeah, kind of terrifying. And side note, I recently found out that Tuivasa used to train at AKA, which I need to see a video of him and Khabib hanging out because they seem completely polar opposite. And I feel like Tuivasa partying a lot and Khabib, being a very conservative Muslim would not be a good mix, but in a very, very fun way. Those two need their own sitcom, I think. It also becomes even funnier when you find out that he was not allowed to do a shoey at UFC 254, which was held in Abu Dhabi and headlined by, you guessed it, Khabib. Now on to the main event. And well, it was very frustrating as a Robert Whittaker fan because, look, I get that he was definitely, nervous and he was, what's the word? Tentative because he got killed last time. I totally get that. But, you know, you need to respect the fighters because they're doing a really hard job. At the same time, as a fan, he fought a very, very dumb fight. And he found out things that worked, but he didn't stick with them until it was too late. And the thing is, it was still quite competitive. Now, I'm fine with either scorecard, honestly. I think, Adesanya and Whittaker both have good arguments for winning. 49-46 either way, though, is ridiculous. It's almost like Cormier versus Gustafsson for me, where the rounds, Cormier got like two very clear rounds, and Gustafsson got one really, really clear round. And the other two, which you could give to Gustafsson, I think, Cormier has a really good argument for winning both. And so Cormier got the decision. Now, when I said fishy judges, I'm saying, why the hell was this not a split decision? Like, why does he not have, why do not a single one of the judges think that he has an argument for winning? That's just ridiculous. Because for me, I think I would say it's the fourth. I think Whittaker arguably won the second, but I'm fine with giving it to Adesanya. Uh, and like I said, 49-46 either way is kind of ridiculous. So the fourth, toughie. I'm not too sure. Oh wait, hold on. I just said that I gave the second round to Whittaker. When I watched it live, I gave it to Adesanya. But the fourth, I think I lean Whittaker. Here's why. So, Cop MMA actually asked me this question. You know, it comes down to whether or not you value low kicks as much as a well-timed jab. Well, this is kind of like Demetrius Johnson versus Henry Cejudo too, where DJ kicked his legs a bunch, but Cejudo, he was outstruck, and Cejudo didn't really respond with counters, or he didn't do anything as significant as the leg kicks. So you would give that round to Demetrius Johnson. However, Whittaker snapped his head back numerous times with double jabs. So the question is, hey, does Adesanya win that round because he did damage to the leg kicks, or does Whittaker win that round because he did damage to the double jab? So this is kind of my thing. The number one criteria in fights is damage, and with attritional damage, the question is, how much does it affect your opponent going on through the fight, and how much does it affect their movement, the way they implement their techniques now? And it didn't really affect Whittaker that much, whereas Adesanya was noticeably backed up every time Whittaker hit him with the jab. Now, that doesn't mean he was hurt. He definitely wasn't rocked. But the difference, I think, between that and, like I said, Demetrius Johnson versus Henry Cejudo too, is that Whittaker responded and had a more obvious impact on the way Adesanya fought. I wouldn't say either of them did as much damage. Only Adesanya knows how much those jabs affected him. And the volume was somewhat comparable. Which doesn't really matter anyway, but it's not like Whittaker was completely out activityed. So I would lean that round for Robert Whittaker, but I am perfectly fine with an Israel Adesanya score. Speaking of scoring, Goat St. Pierre asked me, do you think it's more of is your problem with MMA scoring more so the bad scoring criterion and incompetent judges? Both, because you are going to, I assume people are going to fight based on what the scoring criteria says. So if the incompetent judges don't understand the scoring criteria, which I have a lot of problems with, they're, yeah, the judges are screwing the fighters then. So I think my bigger problem is definitely the incompetent judges because as much as I have problems with the current scoring criteria, it's not bad. It's not a bad scoring criteria right now. I think there are things that should be changed about it. I think it should be a little more nuanced. But is it necessarily, you know, awful? Is it necessarily the kind of scoring criteria that would give, Whittaker Romero rounds to someone to Whittaker, or that Romero won to Whittaker based off a takedown, which he didn't get, but you know what I mean, right? No, it's not that bad. So it's more so the incompetent judges that I have a problem with. And the judges last night were pretty darn bad. So in terms of robberies, where I think this would rank is like Volkanovski versus Holloway 2, where Holloway, I think Holloway won, but at the same time, Volkanovski definitely has a good argument for winning. So I would put it up around there, where I'm not going to cry robbery, even if I do think some of the scorecards were pretty darn ridiculous. So anyway, onto what frustrated me about the fight. Whittaker, what I believe he should have done is go to the body, which number one, he did not do. He did not try and mix up targets and go to the body. Number two, he doubled up on his jab, but he never built on it. I understand that he wanted to keep that right hand up because he was afraid of getting countered, but Adesanya hates being jabbed. And in the first fight, he took a lot of risks. He took a lot of risks. Yeah, sorry. Robert took a lot of risks blitzing him, but he was only punished for it when he loitered in the pocket for too long. But you need to loiter at least for a little bit in order to build. So if he had just doubled up on his jab, right hand, body jab, right hand, he would have had so much more success against Adesanya. But he just didn't do any of those things, which I understand. You don't want to get countered. At the same time, you need to make it more clear. I was kind of hoping the whole time that he was setting him up for that 1-2 high kick and knocking out Piss Royale out of Twatya. Unfortunately, he wasn't doing that, so that stinks. The other thing is that Adesanya, this fight really emphasized to me that Adesanya does not evolve. He's just the same fighter. He's a long, lanky counter striker with good ring craft, good feints. He likes attritional damage. He likes his punching counters. He doesn't like it when you jab him. He doesn't like it when you counter punch him. And he leans back a lot, so he falls right over when you time an open space shot. And whenever Whittaker timed an open space shot, it worked. And the other thing that Whittaker did, which didn't work, which I knew didn't work, was just shooting straight in. Because, Adesanya knows what a sprawl is. And also, grinding against the fence didn't work. The other thing that I guess I was right about is that Whittaker couldn't keep him down. But the thing is, takedowns can be a tool to land, like scoring offense, striking off the break, uh, making him think about it. Whittaker, like, he just shot straight in. The sequence that I wanted to see from Rob was double jab, right hand, shot. Double jab, right hand, high kick. Double jab, double jab, double jab, double jab. Double jab, get out of the pocket. Double jab, right hand again. Shot after going high. That's just, come on. That's Rob. I love Rob, but I was pretty frustrated by his performance. But I'm also happy that he was competitive with his worst possible matchup because out of all historical middleweights, Israel Adesanya is like the only one I would pick over Robert Whittaker. And also, another thing that made me happy though, other than I guess silver lining, other than Whittaker being a lot more competitive with his hardest matchup, even if he's now in the Joseph Benavidez situation, is the fact that this really showed that Prime Weidman would beat the absolute dog shit out of Adesanya, and also that the weight had no role in Jan Blachowicz taking him down, because Robert Whittaker got him down by timing an open space shot, and Adesanya is still a really shit defensive wrestler beyond the first layup. He can get up fine, but, Prime Weidman, too big, too good top game. His entire game was essentially faking high, going low, building his lead hand to open shots. So, yeah, Weidman would brutally smash him, or at least submit him within 3 rounds. But anyway, honestly, I think they should book Cannonier for a title shot. I don't know what to do with Whittaker, Vittori, and Brunson, honestly. And you still have Costa in the mix, so I think it would make sense to have, even though he would get absolutely demolished, Sean Strickland versus Robert Whittaker. Because Strickland's on an okay streak, so from a rankings perspective, it makes sense, even if it wouldn't exactly go well. Marvin Vettori, Derek Brunson versus Paulo Costa, even though Brunson's probably going to die because they're both coming off losses. I don't know what the hell to do with Marvin Vettori. Put him up against Till, I guess, because I think Vettori should still fight down again. So Vettori versus Till, and also there's a storyline because they're supposed to fight. I know Gaslam and Imavov are booked, which I'm perfectly fine with. I think it makes sense. Now, I'm looking at the rankings right now, and I see Chris Weidman, number 15. I want to rant about this a little. I don't want to see him fight again. Like, I don't want to see him fight again. Like, he could fight Darren Till, who he'd murk in his prime, and he could just get killed. He could also fight someone like Cannonier, or Brunson, or Costa, or Vettori, who are all top guys, who he would all murk in his prime, but just get, killed by Costa, or outworked by Brunson because he's shot, or killed by Cannonier, or outworked by Vettori because he's shot. Like, the only one I would say has something for him in his prime is Costa, just because of being a big physical pressure fighter. And that's kind of it. He's the fighter Vettori wishes he would be, just with a worse chin and gas tank, which doesn't really matter because Vettori's not a good finisher. Brunson's sloppy level changes got Cannonier down, so imagine what Weidman would do, especially with a better top game. And, well, Brunson is a much worse wrestler and a much worse phase shifter. So, yeah, I don't really want to see Weidman fight again. I think he should retire because he is already one of the greatest and arguably the best middleweight of all time. I would only, prime for prime, I would only pick Whittaker, Rockhold, and Yoel over him, and even then he has real shots to victory in those fights. So it stinks, but, that's the way of the sport, right? But anyway, my crying rant about Chris Weidman. In terms of heavyweight, I think Volkov and Aspinall are booked, so I think the winner should fight Tuivasa, which would be very funny. I'm not sure who I would favor. Blades versus Dawkins is kind of a fight that makes sense, even if I think it should be Blades' fight. Rosenstrike versus Lewis, because why not? And just give Stipe the damn trilogy, honestly. I'm probably biased because I love Stipe, but an interim title is a bad idea uh, after the whole fiasco with Lewis and Gane. I'm not sold. I think Gane should try and have a bounce back fight because, in terms of stylistic things, Stipe is really bad for him, even if Stipe is washed. And I also don't want the risk that Stipe is completely shot because, look, if he's going to be completely shot, okay, I know he's going to take a lot of damage against Francis, but he at least has a shot of winning his belt back. Actually, you know what? Bad take from me. I'll backpedal. Honestly, you know what? Stipe versus Gane. Yeah, if Stipe wins that, give him the trilogy. And if Gane wins that, I don't know, fucking give him winner of Blades and Dawkins. Anyway, to ramble a little bit more, Adesanya is not the best striker in UFC history. I'm just gonna put that out there. Best striker in UFC history is an argument I've had a lot. I don't think there's a clear answer. Like there's when it comes to grappling, like say Khabib, because the whole thing about Khabib is that he can enforce his win condition, in every possible fashion. But with striking, grappling is more. It's a control thing. It's understanding body mechanics and going here. And there is that in striking, but striking has a lot more of the tactical aspect to it. You're not going to see a far worse grappler than Khabib beat Khabib with the right tactical approach. Maybe with the right MMA approach, maybe said fighter has good ring craft and uses that to make Khabib look stupid. But you're not going to see them like use butterfly hooks at just the right time or something, or scramble in the middle of the cage or something like that. Which they can do that to have success, but it's not going to be their key to victory. At some point in grappling, you have to be more on point than them, smarter than them, and better than them. Or striking, it's you can counterpunch at this time, jab at this time. They're very different in their dynamics. So what I'm trying to say is, I think it is difficult to say who's the best striker of all time or in the UFC right now, but I do know it's not Adesanya, and that's not just because I dislike him. He does not like being counterpunched. He switches stances naked, and he's pretty easy to jab. Someone like Yan or Volkanovski should probably get the title, honestly. Uh, I know I'm gonna get a lot of odds. Like a lot of fans, they say Yair Rodriguez is an elite striker because he throws a lot of cool shit. Or what's his face? John Jones is a top five MMA striker because he throws cool elbows. My response to that is always: is Tony Ferguson an elite striker, or rather, is Tony Ferguson a better striker than Volkanovski? It's the same logic. So Adesanya is a great striker, but him not liking being counterpunched, his inability, his rather just kind of his adjustments, just kind of being, I'm not going to fight you, and the fact that he you know doesn't really like being jabbed, I think is a good thing that disqualifies him. I don't think he's as good of a striker as Volkanovski because Volkanovski, uh, his whole thing obviously is that he adapts, but he also has a game based upon building off the exchanges he has. He's extremely crafty. He has a deceptive amount of depth in his game, and he can recontextualize his tools when his opponents go after him. Unlike Adesanya, if you don't give Adesanya the fight he wants, he's just going to try and point fight you, and he has a real shot of losing that. Whereas if you don't give Volkanovski the fight he wants, he'll find a way to get the fight he wants. That's mostly a fight IQ thing, but in terms of pure technique, I don't even think the gap is that big. Volkanovski has fantastic proactive defense. Adesanya has better reactive defense. Adesanya has the better ring general, but Volkanovski has better footwork off the front foot and uses feints better. Adesanya is the more dynamic striker, but Volkanovski, like knocking Volkanovski for lacking dynamism is a pretty stupid thing, if that makes any sense. So, moving on from that random rant, because I'm kind of tired of people saying that Adesanya is the best striker in UFC history. Uh, UFC 272. First of all, I only care about this fight for the build-up because it would be fucking hilarious. It's going to be fucking hilarious. Uh, they don't like each other. Okay, look, I wouldn't be surprised if the whole thing was fake because both men have built up personas. But at the same time, I don't care. It's WWE shit. They're actually going to fight. It'll be fun. Unfortunately, the rest of the card's kind of a disappointment. Uh, right now, Kevin Holland at welterweight, fine. Edson Barboza versus Bryce Mitchell. I don't know. I feel like Bryce could wrestle him at the same time. I'm not sure if Mitchell's a good enough athlete, and pretty much the only people to convincingly out wrestle Edson have been Khabib and Kevin Lee, who, Khabib is, who's insanely, terrifyingly athletic. Fiziev versus Dos Anjos. Shit. My read on this is probably going to be that Prime RDA would probably win, I think, but he looked fine against Felder, but not what he used to be. So I think Fiziev being youthful and RDA not exactly outclassing him on a technical level, even in his prime, is probably going to get him the W here. I'm also not too convinced that RDA can wrestle him at this point, given how he looked against Felder. In the main event, okay, look, either you think Masvidal is going to knock him the fuck out, or you think that Colby is going to beat him. People think that like Masvidal became so weirdly rated now, where there aren't that many people who are overrating him, but the ones who do think that he's street Jews, Judas, Jesus, blah 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 blah. The typical stuff that got annoying about them. And the people who underrate him think that he's just some random bum, which he is not. He's a fucking really good striker. He's really hard to take down. He's great in the clinch. Now, people who underrate Colby think he's mid tier. I don't think he's mid tier. But I think he's a very, very flawed elite fighter, which frustrates me when I argue with Colby fans because they think he's this hybrid of Khabib and Holloway, which he is, just without 99% of the technique and a worse athlete than both. So, onto how I think the fight's going to play out. Masvidal's kind of, I think it's safe to call him like the final form of an ATT fighter. His ring craft can look shaky at times, but he stuff takedowns extremely well against the fence, which is ATT's signature takedown thing, which came back to bite Dustin against Khabib, but whatever. Great striker, like pretty much overall. He's got great kicks. He can box well. He's great in the clinch. He's explosive. He's fast, and he's pretty good defensively. Now, Colby Covington is what happens when you get a guy who kind of sucks at striking, and he's a good wrestler, but his shots in open space are bad. He's got good chain wrestling. He relies on the clinch, but he sucks in the clinch, and he's got top control. But the dude just has a unfair gas tank, so he basically just spams that shit until he wins. He's not a finisher. All his fights are extremely ugly. Dos Anjos has a really good argument for beating him, but the optics do not favor RDA at all. He was ground out. And even if I did score that fight for Dos Anjos, I totally understand why Covington was given that decision. And I also kind of understand why people think that it was like a Khabibing from Colby when it wasn't anything close. But anyway, assuming that Jorge isn't physically shot, Colby looked kind of regressed against Usman the second time. I think he knew, hey, this guy can hurt me, so he was afraid to throw volume. And he only decided to throw volume when he realized, shit, I need to win. So I'm wondering if the same thing will happen against Masvidal, because I do think, I wonder if he's realized, hey, shit, I can stand with, I am extremely durable. In that case, he could throw a lot of volume, and, you know, I'm not too sure how that's going to look, because I'm not sure, if Masvidal is shot, then it would be a very sad, you know, almost like Covington versus Lawler. If he isn't shot, he's going to hit Colby really, really, really hard, and he's going to hit his body a lot, which Covington hates. And he's going to tear him to pieces in the clinch, and he's going to stuff all his takedowns, or at least get up from them. So that's probably what it's going to look like early. But Covington having a great pace, even if he hates body work, I would still trust him to take over later. He's probably going to just outwork Jorge, like just straight up outwork him as Jorge begins to slow down, as his defensive reactions slow, as his explosiveness starts to fade. So, and he's probably just going to lay and pray him, or win clinch exchanges, or out volume him. So I think Covington by 49-47 decision is a safe pick, but because I trust his durability. But Jorge versus Jorge TKO isn't a bad pick. I just trust Covington's durability more. The only pick that I think is legit bad would be like a Jorge decision, or a Colby, a Colby complete and total domination on the ground. That's that's my 272 recap. It's unfortunate that the fight buildup is going to be better than the actual card. The actual card's just unfortunately kind of okay. Scrolling through, what's next? Santos versus Ankalaev. I think I will save that one for later. I will do the same for Volkov versus Aspinall. Let's see. Blades versus Dawkins is happening. I think I already said that. 273. Volkanovski versus Chan Sung Jung. I will talk about that more in another podcast. Luque versus Muhammad 2 is in April. Luque should kill him again. That's my prediction. And I'm not just saying that because Bilal blocked me. Lemos versus Andrade is headline. Oh, why? 274 is shaping up to be a great card. 2 title fights with two Brazilian champs. Gaethje and Yuri there should be fun. Yeah, most of these fight nights, I know there's going to be headliners more, but most of them are just kind of looking okay so far. Anyway, it got rambly towards the end. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.